Just to remind everybody, this meeting this evening will be live streamed to the public. A recording of this meeting will be available on the Council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Members and officers, please switch on the microphone when you speak and switch it off when you stop speaking. And please, everybody, could you turn off your mobile phones? And if you do need to take an urgent call, please, could you leave the chamber and take it outside? Thank you very much. So, Eunice, just turning to the apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Chair, I have received none.
Good, thank you. No, so there's no apologies. If we move on to the minutes of the last meeting, which is on the 2nd of July 2024, the minutes are there in the papers. Members, any comments? Are we happy to sign them off?
Agreed, Chair.
Yep, so thank you. We can sign them off, so I'll just sign them here. Thank you. Are there any items under section 106, Eunice?
Not at this point, not Chair.
Do we have any disclosures of interest from members?
Thank you, Chair. We mentioned the virtual school in one of the items. I better declare that I'm a... What's the matter? Can't you hear? Yeah. Both. Declare an interest. Virtual school governor.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Mr. Khan?
Declaring an interest as a community governor for Dallow Primary School.
Can I declare I'm a governor at William Austin Junior School?
Okay.
Any more declarations? Okay, thank you. Do we have any urgent business?
No urgent business, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any references from other committees or bodies?
There are no references, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, if we move on to item number 7, the Career Service OCA Phase 1. So, Caroline?
Thanks very much, Chair. So thanks for accepting this report. The proposal is to create a new post of Team Manager for Careers Advice Service and delete an M3 post lower down in order to be able to move towards creating a single integrated careers advice service for children and young people from age 14 to 25. I'm happy to take any questions from colleagues.
Members, do we have any questions? Councillor King.
I think one question. Are we sure there's going to be no redundancies on this?
Yes, there'll be no. We're sure there's no redundancies around this. Yeah, absolutely.
Any more questions? Members? Okay, all right. Caroline, I had some in terms of, this is page 18 on the paper that I've got. You've got an organisational structure. I thought this post was about line managing all the other progression, other careers advisors, or are they not line managing the 14 to 19 progression and transition team?
No, the 14 to 19 progression and transition team are more strategic, where the youth advice service and the careers advisors are much more operational and a pupil and young person client facing. So that'll be part of the second phase of the OCA.
Is it the microphone?
Yeah.
All right. My other issue, the other question I had is really, you're saying the additional costs for this post will be met from increased traded activity, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of information about the increased traded activity, and I think we probably need to, I don't know if you've got extra information you can give us around that.
Yes, I can. This has gone through finance. So the difference in salary, the difference in cost is around £8,000. The income target that the Youth Advice Service has set for trading with schools is around £32,000, but typically they're generating about £73,000 in income. So we're going to increase the income target to about 40,000 to make up for that 8K. So there's plenty of sustainability, plenty of headroom in that income.
These traded services, I mean, is it with all schools? Is it with the academies? Is it secondary?
Yeah, it's with all secondary schools, including all the academies, but also with the colleges and also with the virtual school and the post-18 care leavers. And there's opportunity to expand that even further into the adult education area, to adult and community learning. Will look to us then as an integrated careers advice service to be able to provide that advice to young adults or adults engaging with the adult and community learning sector.
Can I just ask, with this traded service, you're saying the income was 73,000. That's income, is that correct?
Yes.
In terms of, does that cover the costs of the service? Is that generating a surplus, or is that, how's that working?
So that's in terms of the traded income target. So that comes into the council as an income. It's not separated out in terms of covering costs from a traded perspective. If the trading dropped off to the extent that it would not cover costs, not cover those income costs, then we'd be looking at making redundancies, which is what we do in the traded service arena.
Okay, and the last question there, in terms of how does this fit in with, obviously given the council's finances, there's a transformation programme, there's a debt recovery programme. How does this fit in this? Are those people aware of the activity here?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, this is an idea of actually making efficiencies by creating common processes. So this is the first stage in creating an integrated careers advice service. So instead of having different colleagues in different teams providing advice in different ways, and so our most vulnerable young people getting the most changes, having a single careers advice service with single protocols, single systems, will bring those efficiencies.
I understand that, but in terms of the costs for this team are going up, I just wonder whether there's something we need to do in terms of the transformation programme, the debt recovery programme, and need to get their involvement in this and get in there to have a look at that. Because obviously, given where we are with the finances and the savings we need to make over the next few years, I'm just wondering, it'd be good to get their view on this, because I'm just a bit nervous about agreeing a cost increase on the basis that we'll make more traded services and we'll get more traded services done. I probably might need a bit more information around that.
Yeah, sure. That's about the traded services more widely. So as if by magic. To you, Kate.
Yeah, hi, good evening. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kate Robertson. So I'm the service director that's responsible and leading our transformation programme at Luton. So just to confirm that, that the service are working very closely with our commercial services manager, Sue Burton, and she's will continue to work with the service and with a number of education-based services on understanding that gross and net profit levels, the service charging, and also those opportunities for expanding our trading that my colleague was just setting out. So I think that I've looked at this. I think we're reasonably comfortable that it is doable in terms of the finances. So we're not concerned at this point that this proposal puts the council at any significant financial risk, and that there is an opportunity through this structure to expand and grow that income potential.
Last question. I wasn't quite clear of the timescales for this change, Caroline.
Yeah, so the timescales, if we get approval tonight, we'll go out to advert next week to look for the M5 post. It'll be an internal ring-fenced post. Assuming that will be successful, then we'll be looking at creating a phase 2 of the OCA around getting the teams together.
And will you be advertising externally or internally first?
No, it's internally ring-fenced as part of the OCA.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Going back to committee, I think the recommendation to us is to approve the implementation. Sorry. The recommendation is the committee is recommended to improve the implementation of the new staffing structure and the post-deletion creations as outlined in this report. Are members happy?
Seconded.
Yep. Okay, thank you. I think we have an approved, and thank you, Kate, for reassuring us this is part of the transformation programme as well. Thank you. Moving on to agenda number 8, People Strategy Annual Report. Thank you. Okay, over to yourself. If you can introduce yourself. Is it Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So my name's Leslie McNeil. I am the Team Manager for Workforce and Organisational Development based in HR Strategy, and this report is an annual report that we bring to Admin and Regulations Committee, focusing on the progress that we're making with implementing our people strategy, which is a 3-year strategy, and therefore the content of this report focuses on the progress that we've made in the last 12 months from 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024. I'm happy to take any questions.
Members, any questions? Yes, Councillor Khan.
Hi, thank you for your report, Leslie. So my question is around, I know that there is a section within this report that talks about wellness and resilience within the work team and the workforce. I'm also aware that I receive emails from officers at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I'm a bit concerned with their, with how long hours they're working, and with some serious mental health breakdowns we've had in the past within the organisation, where we've had a few suicides as well. I'm just a little bit concerned to see what support is being offered to our staff that is being worked very hard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. One of the priority work streams within the strategy is specifically around employee wellness and resilience. That work stream group that has been set up to focus on that has been doing a lot of work over the last 12 months to make sure that people are able to access a wide range of support that's available, which includes our employee assistance programme. We work very closely with Total Wellbeing as an organisation that facilitates a range of wellness-related events. We have close contact and communication with Public Health, who are directly involved in supporting the priorities under that work stream, and will continue to do so.
Thank you. In regards to the Employee Assistance Programme, now, as someone who is of an ethnic minority background with, a person of faith, so I come from a Pakistani Muslim background, I find it's helpful for me to talk to a therapist who belongs to a similar background to me. Now, I find with employee assistant programs, I find that sometimes you're given a therapist who doesn't understand the context of your cultural background and your upbringing, and therefore doesn't really understand the sort of situation at hand. Is there, it may not well be the case, but is there a programme in place where the employee themselves can choose their therapist, and then the council, we just cover the costs for whatever their therapist charge? Is there if not, is that something we could consider? Is there something we have budget for?
I think it's certainly something that we would look at if there isn't that provision in place. My understanding is that through all of the sort of work that we're doing under the people strategy, one of the things that is very much in the forefront of our minds is making sure that we are reflecting the diversity of the community and the workforce itself. We have seen some changes with regard to the level of representation of people from different ethnic groups through our coaching and mentoring provision, for example. We have EDI coordinators located within services across the council who have a specific function within that service to strengthen and improve the provision in that regard.
Thank you. I can see that actually we have improved massively in recruiting from more diverse backgrounds. And I think my question is more, are we facilitating and are we actually making provisions for them when they need their mental well-being met, and being able to reach a therapist that sort of is able to meet those needs. That's
As a question in relation to the employee the EAP programme.
EAP, yeah.
Councillor, I'm off the top of my head, I can't answer your question tonight, but we can certainly take that away and find out how, if someone wants a particular counsellor with a particular background or faith, how through the EAP system we can facilitate that. So we'll take that action away and come back to you and update the committee on that.
Thank you. I think it is very helpful, I think, sometimes to have someone who's from a similar background to be able to understand and provide that, because I think sometimes that's not the case.
So the other important thing to say is what we also try to do is also, make sure that actually and support our employees to engage with other health services, but also to local community groups, and to make those connections to those, we've got an excellent BCS in Luton, as we know, and actually to make sure that we're making sure that people can connect to those as well and are aware of the whole range of offers and support that's available in Luton. But in terms of the specific EAP, we'll take that away. Okay.
Any more questions? If not, I'll go on. No? Okay. Thank you, Leslie. I thought overall it was a very positive report and a lot of stuff, and I particularly welcomed all the learning and development that's going on. I was wondering how we are measuring that in terms of all of that. There was a lot going on there. I was pleased to see you using T-levels, apprenticeships. What are the sort of outcome measures there? Because there wasn't any outcome measures there, so I don't know how we are measuring that. Are we looking at the skill levels across the council? Are they going up? So are people now more likely to have level 3 or level 4 qualifications? Welcome a response around that.
There is certainly monitoring across a whole range of the development activities that you've referred to and more. We have been doing some work recently in terms of identifying and agreeing our key performance indicators. That is sort of close to, I think, being finalised, and will certainly be one of the main ways in which we will be measuring performance against those. Within my team specifically, and also within the wider HR function, we have been sort of capturing data forever. We provide data when we need to on a whole range of areas, and we have very good working relationships across the council with our management teams, with services, to make sure that we're identifying what the priority development needs are. We have systems in place to be able to capture and monitor what impact that training is having on skills, knowledge, understanding, and able to report on that when we need to. A lot of that information goes through to the People Strategy Board in particular.
This is a more generic question. I see the People Strategy is talking about high quality services to our communities,
Yes.
and that's one of its aims. As councillors, we often get people coming to us and saying they're not getting that responsive, they're not getting that customer service. They sometimes ring up and they email, and then they don't hear anything for months, and sometimes they then come to us councillors to complain that they've not had a response back and it's been a month or 2 months. How are we measuring that? How are we looking at that customer service to our communities is improving within the People Strategy?
So I think as many of you will be aware, within the transformation programme, we also have a programme it's called Resident Experience, and that is looking at how we're going to drive improved resident access and experience across the council. We know at the moment that people, certainly those people with language needs or additional needs, we know sometimes struggle to access information and services. And we know that in some cases the experience of our residents when they do interact with us is mixed, I think you can safely say. So what we are doing as part of that, we will also be having a series of indicators that we'll be tracking across the organisation in terms of performance and outcomes and experience. We are also, and that will feed into some of the work that we're doing within the people strategy as well, around actually looking at some of those key indicators, those strategic outcome measures, but also our sort of operational measures as well, to make sure that we're operating efficiently and effectively. So it is all coming together as part of our transformation programme. The people strategy is a major strand of our transformation strategy, and so we're trying to bring all of these different elements together. Each one of them will have a set of indicators and measures that we will be monitoring, so that we can track progress and we can track outcomes as well across the board. So it's a work in progress, but it may be that actually we can bring some of the HR indicators and our people strategy indicators to a future meeting, and we can discuss what they're telling us as well.
I think we would welcome that, and I think customer service is something that, if we're aspiring to 2040, we need to work on, and that's some of the bugbears that we get as councillors, because we get tarnished with the same brush. You know, you're all the same. You never come back to us. So I think focusing on that would be really good. But otherwise, I thought the report was really positive. Some lots of good work going on. So well done to everybody. I think the committee is asked to note the progress and outcomes today, and to actually approve the work. Is it the priorities for the second year? I think just note it. I don't think we need to approve it. So is the committee happy to note?
Yes, Chair.
Councillors Ambia.
Thank you, Chair. You have mentioned about the feedback. If the residents would like to leave some comments about customer service, where they will find, or is there anything we can directed them if they are not satisfied with the customer service? Do you have the portal or any survey for the feedback?
Yep. So obviously, as part of measuring customer services, so within the main sort of call centre that we have, so the main customer services centre, we've now introduced satisfaction surveys as part of that, so that people have the opportunity to feedback on their experience within the call centre. But at the moment, we know that actually only 45% of all telephony demand goes through our call centre. 55% goes into the rest of the organisation. So as part of the resident experience review and programme, we will be looking at developing with residents a set of promises about what they can expect from us, a set of measures that we'll be monitoring across the organisation. Alongside that, we're also looking at our complaints and feedback mechanisms as well. And we've got a new complaints policy coming to executive in October this year that will set out actually how we're going to improve the way that we manage complaints within Luton as well. But the other thing as well, we are looking across the organisation at how we can make sure that we have a more consistent approach to capturing feedback, to giving opportunities for residents to feedback on service delivery, not alongside the complaints process. So it's a work in progress, but we are aware that we need to improve those mechanisms as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kate. I think going back, I think we're in.
Yeah. Sorry, I would like to follow up this question, because I think Mr. Abbas, he already mentioned about every time what we receive from residents, all are like they're unhappy, user, because when they call, they just got a reference number, but they don't get any follow-up update, or they don't get any, they don't receive any resolution. They just give them a notice, just reference number, and that's it. There was no follow-up, there's no action, there's no ownership of the ticket. Or do you maintain any log? Say, of course, when you assign a ticket or reference, the customer service, did they make any note, this residents call for driveway issue or something, or are we going to follow up, or is it just who's going to follow up all the call logs or comments that will allow you to review, not immediately, maybe following day or future, because to be quite on a customer service satisfaction is very, very bad.
Councillor Ambia, I think that's what Kate was saying earlier, that the transformation programme is about logging all of that and the work they're doing around the call centre. At the moment, not everything goes through there. The call centre will allow us to do that. So it's part of the transformation programme that Kate was alluding to.
Yeah, and just to say, one of the things, so at the moment, what we don't have is what we call, so most organisations have what's called a customer relationship management system, a CRM system, so that when you call them, they log the call and then it starts a workflow. Yeah, so it goes into it starts a workflow into the system, and then you're able to track what's happened with that. At the moment, we don't have that in Luton, and one of the things that we're looking to implement in this year as part of that programme of change is to introduce that system so that we've got that transparency and that data on actually who's contacting us, what are they contacting us about, and did we resolve it? And then where are we letting customers down? So we're aware of the problem, and we've got a plan to address it.
Okay. Is there any time frame when you're going to implement?
So the time frame at the moment is so we've over the course of the next 12 months, basically, because we'll need to implement and decide and design the system.
Can we move on to the recommendation, which is to note the progress and the priorities for the second year? Are we happy, committee?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. Thank you for a good report.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 9, and we've got a report on market supplements. Is that yourself, Kate, or if you could like to introduce yourselves?
I've got 2 more colleagues here today, so thanks.
Good evening. Just like to introduce myself quickly, if I may. My name's Helen Ginty. I'm a team manager in HR with responsibility for policy and reward, and as such the market supplement scheme about which this report details falls within my remit. I'd also like to introduce, if I can, Elaine Hill to my right, who amongst her many duties has responsibility for the day-to-day operation of the market supplement scheme. So market supplements are time-limited payments that are linked to posts and are paid in addition to normal pay where there's clear evidence that there's recruitment and retention difficulties, and those recruitment and retention difficulties are caused by the fact that the total remuneration package that we're able to pay is too low when we compare it to those offered by our competitors in comparable posts. The report is normally presented in June or July, so it's a little bit out of sync at the moment because of the general election. It is a report that's presented every year on the request of Admin and Regulation Committee, so the next report on this is going to be presented in less than 12 months' time, just so that you know. I'd like to take a couple of minutes, if I might just touch briefly on a couple of the highlights of the report and the main issues. So in 2019, the scheme was altered slightly so that market supplements were agreed and paid for a 2-year period rather than a 12-month period. And the retention figures that we've seen since that change was introduced would indicate that that's given, that 2-year cycle has given a degree of stability and some reassurance for the recipients, and it's proved to be very positive in terms of the scheme itself. At April 2024, we had 336 recipients of market supplements, which is a slight increase of 33 from the previous year and equates to about 12% of the workforce. That number, you'll see from the report, has increased year on year. But although there's been an increase in payments, only a very small part of that increase in payments is for roles that have not previously attracted a market supplement. Most of those increases are due to increased occupancy levels in roles that have previously been awarded market supplements. There have been some notable success stories. We've had increased occupancy figures in hard-to-fill posts in children's services, and that's been particularly encouraging because of the national shortages in those areas, and it has provided some teams with some welcome stability. Similarly, in planning, we've had some success despite national shortages again. That is a little bit more complicated. That is not just due to market supplements, but seems to be due to market supplements and initiatives that they've introduced around career progressions, progression schemes and career pathways, which are attractive to both existing employees and new employees alike. On the flip side, we've had adult social care who've been struggling to recruit at some of the managerial grades despite offering a market supplement, and they've been looking at some restructuring, which they hope is going to have a positive impact on their ability to attract candidates in the future. And there's also been some niche roles where market supplements haven't had the desired effect. Where that's the case and where we're confident that the benchmarking is correct, managers are being encouraged to go back and consider other options like staff development, secondments, job redesign, that kind of thing, and also to have additional conversations with the recruitment team to look at different innovative avenues of recruitment. So in terms of the cost, the spend on market supplements for 23-24 was 1.13 million, and the budgeted spend for 24-25 is 1.77 million, which presupposes that all eligible posts are filled for the full year, so that's likely to be high. We are alert to the schemes that our neighbouring local authorities have in place and the details of those schemes and the supplements that they pay. We also know that we have a clause that's always been within our market supplement agreements that requires employees to reimburse or part reimburse the council for their market supplement if they leave the council or leave the authority. And we know that that's proving a little bit contentious in a small number of areas. That's something that we will continue to monitor over the coming months, and we'll report on in the next year's report if needs be. So to sum up, market supplements are still serving a useful purpose, and in the main they do seem to be successful in their aim, and they have led to increased stability in many roles and many teams. The evidence from this year is suggesting that market supplements are particularly successful when they're combined with other initiatives. As you'd expect, the scheme continues to be subject to really clear governance and also to tight controls around the process. Those are the main points that I really wanted to highlight. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and happy to take any questions if you've got any. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Members, any questions? Councillor Keane.
I've got two questions really, and one follows on from t'other. How old do you have to be able to take your pension at the council?
You can retire from 55 onwards. It depends. 55 at the moment, 57 soon, but 55 you can take early retirement. 55.
Yeah.
Much reduced, I might add.
It's not your full pension. If you
Yeah.
leave at 55, you get a reduction in your pension. So it's not, you can't access your full pension at 55.
Right. Now, the throwaway line at the bottom of 45, 1 in 3 of our workforce is ready at the age. Does this mean we've got an ageing workforce which we're not replacing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, pretty much 1 in 3 of our workforce is aged 55 and over at the moment.
Isn't that a bit alarming that we've actually, if all these people decided to take their pension, we'd have nobody here at all?
No, it's like, but that's one of the indicators when I was talking earlier about some of our key performance indicators and some of our measures that we're starting to monitor now across our workforce. That is one of them, because actually it does represent a risk in terms of our workforce sustainability going forward. So it's a risk that we need to be aware of and monitoring and managing as an organisation.
I think it's a hell of a risk, to be quite honest, because we could end up with a lot of new young people, and I'm not saying they can't do the job, who haven't got the experience.
I think it's a valid comment there. I was just thinking as Councillor Keynes was speaking, this is maybe a crossover with the people strategy around how we're looking at how we're recruiting and what are we looking at. 1 in 3 are near pension age. There's an issue there. So I don't know if it's worth Eunice maybe making a note that there's a link with the people strategy. Councillor Khan.
I would actually say it's positive that we've got people that have been in service for a number of years. I think it's, on the one hand, we have a plan where we do extensive retention plans, and then on the second, we're saying it's concerning that we've got people that are close to pension age. And I think there is a breakdown of people that are below certain people that are able to step up if they are to leave. So I'm not particularly concerned by that. I'm actually quite confident and quite happy that we have been able to retain staff for such a long time.
Any more questions, members? If not, I've got a couple. No? Okay. If I ask my first one, these market supplements are for 2 years. What happens after that? And have we monitored what happens when the market supplement goes away? Does that staff member then decide to go somewhere else, or do they stay with us?
Hi, can you hear me okay? Great. Okay, so I'm about to embark on the throes of the next market supplement panels during the autumn. So we've scheduled some panels, pay panels, between September and December. So we're currently in the second year of the market supplement agreement. And we look to do this, the pay panels, and have them all agreed for the forthcoming agreement term. So that will be from effect from the 1st of April 2025 right the way through to the 31st of March 2027, in the hope that obviously that will help attract people, retain people, so they're confident that they know what's been agreed in terms of the market gap differential. You'll see in the report that most of the market supplement payments remained quite static, and there was a couple of increases in adult social care previously, but it's a very robust process that we have to follow, and they will be approved, or they'll be decided upon at each of those pay panels, and obviously we'll keep you posted and updated when we come to report to you again next summer on those.
Thank you about that. I was going to say, I mean, I was reading in here, there are other incentives as well. So some of our neighbouring local authorities are using what they call Golden Hellos and Welcome. Are we using any of them, or are we looking outside the box to offer? Because sometimes it isn't always about money. It is about other incentives. Are we looking at any other incentives?
We have looked at some of those incentives previously, and we are looking at a refer a friend scheme just now. But as you rightly point out, it's rarely just about the money. So we are looking at our flexible benefits, what can we offer in terms of flexibility, and looking wider. What's the values, what's the behaviours of the organisation, how can that attract people in. So what we often find is that on exit interviews, it's rarely just the money as to why somebody leaves. And so we're trying to concentrate on those non-monetary things that we can influence, where we can make a difference, and we can be an employer of choice for people to make a difference. So we are doing quite a lot of work around those.
What about other incentives, like, for example, I've seen, particularly in education and with the Academy Trust, they're offering private healthcare or subsidised private healthcare. They're offering electric vehicle salary sacrifice schemes, because that again ties you into an organisation.
We do have quite a few schemes around that. We do have a number of salary sacrifice schemes that sort of tie people in. We have childcare schemes, we have salary sacrifice schemes around our pensions and AVCs. Things that cost money, like private medical insurance, we don't have. But we do have a lot on the wellbeing front. So we have access to financial wellbeing education. things that are a little less tangible than perhaps private medical insurance might be. So we're trying to do things in the sphere of, you know, where they don't cost money to implement them. So we, yeah, and so are a lot of our neighbouring authorities, in fairness. That's the kind of the arena that we're working in. I don't know if there's anything that I've missed there.
No, I was just going to add again, it links back to the people strategy conversation that we were just having, because one of the priority work streams under the people strategy is recruitment and retention. And one of our priorities for the coming year is to develop what's called the employee value proposition. So actually, what's our brand? What are we saying about working for Luton? Why come and work for us? And as you quite clearly pointed out, you know, it's not always about the money. It is about culture. It's about opportunity. It's about how much people can learn and develop in their career at Luton. It's also about things like actually some of those wider benefits around how family friendly we are. As Councillor Khan was talking earlier about, you know, some of those, you know, working conditions as well. So all of that. So we're going to be doing quite a bit of work over the course of the next year to really understand and map out actually what attracts people to come to Luton. How can we develop those things, and how can we improve the offer so that we attract but also retain our good people as well.
No, thank you, Kate. I'm pleased that you're doing that work, because I think we need to map out what benefits staff can get, make sure they're aware of it, because I know in a lot of organisations staff aren't always aware of the benefits, and I know some of the leading companies are creating benefit pages where you can go in and they've got a benefits calculator that you can put in as a staff member, and it churns out what you're eligible for and what you can claim, and sometimes it's even extra annual leave or something. I'm sure we've probably got that somewhere in there as well. So I'm really pleased you're doing that work, and I think it'd be really useful to our staff as part of the people strategy what benefits they value and what they would prefer. So thank you for that. Anyway, Aziz.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to, can you please clarify, is it market supplement payment reflected on all the positions, or is it on the selective roles? Or is there anything, are you prioritize some roles are very demanding or shortage of staff to attract them to offer the market supplement, or you're going to implementing all over the every position?
So I'm not sure I've totally understood the question.
Yes, are you going to give the market supplement for the selective positions, or is it all of?
It's just a small minority of positions where there's proven recruitment and retention difficulties, and we know that those recruitment and retention difficulties are because we can't match the salary that's in the open market.
So is this like how you are evaluating? Is it of how you're going to evaluate the market supplement to offer this position? Is it because of the demand shortage of the people, or?
So as part of the robust system that I mentioned earlier, managers have to fill in a questionnaire and have to provide evidence of recruitment difficulties in the last 12 months. That could be how many times they've gone out to recruit, how many interviews they've done. So it's literally, at the moment, the market supplement payments are paid to the appendix that you have there within the report, and those are deemed as the hard-to-fill posts within the council. If there's any addition in between, majority of payments are paid between the first. We try and tie it in with the financial year, basically. However, in the meantime, we may have other requests that are outside of that particular agreement term. Again, the manager will provide us with evidence. We will arrange to set up a pay panel, and the pay panel, which consists of usually couple of service directors, including Kate as our chair, and they will decide as to what the need is, and in order to actually bridge the gap of what our local competitors are paying. I hope that's answered your question. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Thank you, thank you. If there's no more questions, I think the recommendation for the committee is to note this report and be advised that there will be a further report in March 2025. So are we happy with that recommendation? Thank you. Thank you for your report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item agenda number 10, permanent pavement licensing regime 2024. So hand over to yourself, Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, members. I don't intend to run through the whole report. You have the report in front of you. Basically, just to pick up a few salient points. As you may be aware, in COVID times, there was a light touch pavement licensing scheme that was introduced as part of those regulations. The former government looked to now make that scheme permanent through the enactment of the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act that came into being this year. So therefore we're sort of playing a bit of catch up to make sure that the council's constitution, the delegations, fees and the licence conditions are in line with that was introduced, those changes that were introduced by the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act. I just want to sort of draw your attention to a couple of things, because I know that some members will have been dealing with businesses and residents regards to sort of highway encroachment and sort of some of the problems that creates. This is just to make this absolutely clear, this is actually only to do with hospitality premises. This isn't to do with sale of goods on the highway. That regime would remain untouched. But basically it's any person that's actually looking to do this as part of their hospitality business. So food and drink and those items that enables them to, for people to be able to consume food and drink on the highway in those particular areas. Under the scheme, which in effect has now been made permanent, we have 10 licence holders who would be in effect be permitted to renew their licences under the permanent scheme. And just to give you a flavour, 6 of those are in the town centre, 1 is in Marsh Road, 2 on Hitchin Road and 1 in Sundon Park. So actually we haven't got a massive number, and we don't predict that there will be a massive sort of sway of people looking to come in and look to take advantage of this scheme, because this scheme has been there for now almost 4 years. The added advantage in it is that it does bring us additional enforcement powers, so that we are therefore, unlike some of the other schemes, we are able to issue a notice requiring that any breach of the licence to be remedied. If the licence holder fails to remedy that breach, then we can amend the licence, revoke the licence, or we can take steps to remedy the breach and then charge and recover those costs accordingly. So actually it does give us some more tools in the toolbox to deal with anybody that doesn't fall in line with their licence. So basically the report in front of you this evening is for us to enable to continue to manage the licensing regime, albeit that it's now permanent, to basically amend the council's constitution to recognise the changes that have been brought in by the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act, to recognise the delegations as proposed in the report, and to approve the local and national conditions which are set out in Appendix A, and the fees which are associated, which are statutory fees, and we are proposing that they are set at the statutory maximum. And that really, Chair, concludes my report. I'm welcome to take any questions.
Thank you, Tony, for that. Again, any questions? Councillor Nasser.
Thank you, Chair. Little bit, I just want to, if you can help me to clarify that. So, in the first year will be maximum 500. Is that the second year we're thinking about 350 if they want to renew that? But what will be the third year? Will it be that 500 or will it be 350?
So basically, the 10 existing licence holders would all be treated as renewals. So when they come round, so actually most of the licences look to expire at the end of September. So actually most of those, if they wish to continue, would be treated as renewals. So that will be the 350 fee suggested in the report. That is the maximum that's allowed under the legislation. If there are any, and it will be 2 years, and then it will still be the renewal, so it'll be another 350 after 2 years. So they'll remain, as long as they maintain that licence, they will always consider to be new renewals. Any break in the licence or any new licences would be then treated as a fresh grant, and that will be the fee suggested there at 500. Again, for the maximum of the 2-year period. We're not able to licence for more than 2 years because that is a statutory provision as well. So basically, anyone with an existing licence will treat as a renewal. Any new applications would be a grant.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Keynes.
I'm not sure how to phrase this. Is there an area outside which is designated to that shop, cafe, whatever it is, for placing their goods and tables? What I'm really saying is, how far can they come out?
There are a range of provisions there, Councillor. So basically, I think if I remember correctly, I think it's 1.5 metres that has to be maintained from the curb line. Obviously, if there is street furniture, then we would take that into account. But basically, yes, there has to be a walkway of a minimum of 1.5 metres to enable people with pushchairs or wheelchairs, etc. to... and we would assess, and we have done with the 10 licences, we assess those areas before any licence is granted. So if there is street furniture which restricts that, then we would look to reduce the size. It may be that some of the locations are not appropriate, so therefore the licence wouldn't be approved.
Taken into account?
It does take into account those environments. As I say, not every area is suitable.
I'm just thinking of Hitchin. They seem to take over the whole pavement in Hitchin. But, of course, that's another authority. The £500, is that statutory throughout the country?
It is. That is the statutory maximum, yes.
The price is that low. Especially if the government's involved. Well, the new government may be different.
Let's not get political, Councillor Keynes. Councillor Malik.
Is that applied to only a particular area or like Bury Park area as well? Because Bury Park is at the moment is already too much congested. If we have approved that, is that worthable to license for those shops?
Right, yes, that's what I was sort of trying to stress, that actually this doesn't change the provisions. I know Bury Park's quite an interesting scenario because you have private property which have the sales on them. They have then other areas which are highway, of which they have a licence. They currently have a licence under the Highways Act. And those provisions remain. I say this is purely to do with hospitality. So predominantly either bars, restaurants, cafes who want to expand their business out onto the highway. So it's a very limited sort of number of premises. And as I say, this has been in existence now since 2020, and we have 10 licences in place. So any of those businesses that this scheme would apply could have applied previously. So we're not envisaging a massive change. This is really looking at bringing our constitution and our delegations up to speed with the changes that were brought in on the 31st of March. So actually, there are some changes, but it's predominantly maintaining the status quo because we need, as an authority, need to manage these licences. Otherwise, it's a bit of a free-for-all.
Councillor Ambia.
Thank you, Chair. If this 500 is the maximum, can the council increase the threshold, or is it what is it is fixed by the government?
The fees and the maximum period of the licence are all set by the legislation, so we have no, that's not within our gift to change that.
Thank you. I just follow up one question. Because some of the business, like example, like a restaurant or coffee shop, business who serve the hot food, they have got advantage because they're not charging any VAT. Like, and also another, so some of this like shops like who selling clothes or other household goods, they are adding VAT. So it depends on the business. Some business have already advantage because nature of service they are offering. Is there anything like we can have take more incentive people who are selling the hot food, because we have too many fast food shops across the town. And that, I believe like £500 is very less.
Not an incentive as such, Councillor. I think the limitations are that, as I said, it's a relatively small percentage of the overall premises that would look to make use of the highway. So actually, as I say, the goods on the highways, it doesn't change any of that. That will remain exactly the same. This is purely for hospitality premises. Yeah, so literally, if you want to, you know, it's that coming back to that sort of cafe culture idea that was proposed many, many years ago, but basically allowing people to sit outside, enjoy the weather. We have very interesting weather in the UK, but basically to be able to sit outside and for the businesses to put out whatever paraphernalia they want to facilitate that. So that can be umbrellas, it could be chairs, it could be tables, can be sort of mobile heaters, that sort of thing. But it's purely limited to hospitality, and it has to be linked to that. So it can't be a business that isn't hospitality that then chooses to do that outside their premises. It has to be directly linked to the activity of the premises.
Like if you give the permission, but they are pushing the boundary. I have so many times. So do you have enough people to monitor and enforce?
Yes, we would have staff not only from the licensing service, but we'd also have our neighbourhood enforcement officers, and also we also pick up information from our civil enforcement officers, for instance, as well. So, as I say, we haven't had any problems with these licences as to date, and I think that is because of the nature of those that type of licence. But basically, yes, with the additional powers and the existing staff, yeah, we would be able to deal with that.
Councillor Meads.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, 10 licences town-wide. Could you give us a list of those? Because I've got somewhere in my ward Greggs who operate on the pavement. I'd like to see that they are paying their whack.
Certainly, Councillor, I can certainly provide you a list not only of those premises that are currently licensed under the 2020 scheme, but I can also give you a list of all of those that we license under the Highways Act as well.
Tony, if I could ask you to send the list to Eunice and then she can forward it to the whole company. It'd be interesting to see which of the 10 licenses on there. Sorry, I was looking at the conditions in Annex A, and there is one around keeping the place clean and tidy and all of that. And are we enforcing that? Because we're increasingly seeing across Luton, we've got a number of hospitality units operating from containers, and they're not really got outside areas, but they're selling containers. And a prime example is, I think, Selborne Road. Towards the end of the Selborne Road, there's quite a number have sprung up there, and there seems to be a lot of litter. And I don't know whether they fall under this licence or whether that's something separate, but are we enforcing the litter stuff? Because some of these places are selling chai, whatever, spuds, you name it, and then people are eating on the street, throwing it on the street and walking off.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so actually the benefits of this is that there is, unlike the temporary scheme, this does enable us to put conditions on. So the conditions suggested there are not only the national conditions but our local conditions. The Act also allows us to put in bespoke conditions. So if you are minded to approve the delegations, then if there is a particular issue with a particular area that needs to be addressed and we think that the licence would assist and they wish to have a licence, then we can add those additional conditions. But in response to your main question, any of the licences, whether that be highways or under the existing scheme, we do enforce with regards to litter, where we can tie that back to that actual premises.
Fine, yeah, because there's a number of eateries opening up from mobile units and containers that people are actually just eat. There's nowhere to sit or anything, they just eat on the street. And obviously there's a lot of litter, and we've had some complaints, particularly in the Selborne Road area, where in the morning the businesses there say, oh, there's all this food and cartons and everything, and what's the council doing about that?
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I mean that sort of ties into the other projects, including our War on Waste. So that would all tie together.
Councillor Keynes.
On Selborne Road, we've got 4 in George Street alone which sell food, and people sit around eating it. My question is, I think it's going to change with the new government. Do we do anything about smoking outside these premises?
Not specifically smoking. You'll notice in the conditions that it does suggest there about the management of having a separate area, etc. So there is listed in there, and if there was concerns in a particular area about, you know, the secondary smoke issues, then we could condition that further. But yeah, that does enable us to be able to look at things like that. And as you're aware, there are broader now considerations of smoking in public places as well.
It's really only a Costas. You go past there and you go through a fog sometimes. So, but I know there's nothing you can really do about it, but a new glorious government may change that.
Thank you, Councillor Keynes. Any more questions?
I don't know what, I mean, it might be not relevant with what we're talking about. I'm just a little bit curious if you, do we have other regime, because it says permanent pavement licensing. You know, we see, what my colleague was saying about what we see in Berry Park, shops, they have, they build another shops in front of there. So then we are having also complaint about people not able to take a pushchair or car. So where does that fit?
So that fits under the highways. As I say, Berry Park's quite complicated in that there are some areas that are, in effect, what used to be the front gardens of those premises before it was basically pedestrianised, for want of a better expression. But some areas are licensed and they're denoted by the studs on the highway. So we are very much aware that there is encroachment onto the highway, which is why I wanted to draw that out at the beginning of this report. But basically, yeah, the council does take action against those where they are in breach of their licence. And if necessary, we can remove that licence. Or, but I have to say, I think the most prolific individuals who are pushing the boundaries, unfortunately, are on property which is their, in effect, would have been their front garden, and they encroach onto the highway. So we have to use different powers. So we use antisocial behaviour powers and notices to deal with those issues.
Just related with this question, so because we did have a couple of complain about Berry Park, I mean, my colleague will agree with us as well, that, you know, what they're saying, the owner saying they're using their garden, which is what used to be their back garden, and they're using their garden as, extra on the summertime, selling like summer foods and everything. But we don't know how, whether they are in their rights or, whether we can do anything, the council can enforce anything.
If I may, I could just respond. So yes, if they are encroaching onto the highway, so for instance, they don't have a highway licence and they're encroaching onto the highway, then we can deal with that because it's obstruction or it is not permitted use. Ultimately, the only people that can use the highway is the council, and the only way that somebody else can use that is where, in effect, we give them permission or a licence to do so. So whether that's somebody coming in to do roadworks, whether that's somebody to do put something on the pavement with regards to their business, then they can only do that with permission. If somebody is encroaching off their own property, we do have powers under the Antisocial Behaviour Act which enables us to deal with that, as we would do with large-scale sort of rubbish in the front garden or nuisance, etc. So it would be the same powers, but we would apply that with regards to community protection warnings and community protection notices or prohibition notices, ultimately. So there are a range of tools that enables us to do that, but that's outside of in effect, this scheme. What this scheme is looking at is predominantly it is solely to do with hospitality businesses, and there are a range of conditions now and enforcement powers that enable us to deal with that in its own right, not reliant on other powers from other pieces of legislation.
Thank you for clarifying.
Councillor Malik.
I think we should need to think about it, about particular areas like, as a ward councillor of Beach Hill Ward, the Bury Park, me and my other councillors, we are struggling to control these kind of things, you know, from from last years, you know. We should have to think about where we have to issue the license, because Bury Park is the main hub of Luton and it's very busy, because junction 11 to junction 10, anything is happening, because there are buses are going and these are kind of the things are going, and all the traffic is stuck. So we should have to think about it, about these kind of particular area. That's my review.
I think, Tony, if you can note that, it's not within what we're discussing here, this paper. This paper is about hospitality. And I know Tony has said several times this is about hospitality, and we're talking about another issue about shops encroaching onto the pavement. I don't think this is covered under this policy. So, Tony, if you can note that, and let's move on.
Certainly, Chair, I will note that. Also, just an element of reassurance, so any licence, and this would also include our process for these, we do notify the ward councillors on every application. So there is an opportunity there for people to comment or make objections. So actually, you know, please obviously keep an eye on your email boxes, because we do send out electronic notifications for whatever licence type comes in, always to the ward councillors.
Any more questions on this paper?
I would like to just tell a comment. I understand her concern. Basically, what's in if there is a hospital premises within this area, any hospital premises within the Bury Park area, of course, yeah.
Tony already to send around a list of the 10 licensees that we've got under this policy. So he will send that around. You can have a look which ones are in Bury Park and which are there. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like if there's some outside, it depends on the where they are. Should be fine. Only for the.
Just if there's no more questions, then I'm going to refer everybody to page 57, paragraph 3. We've got 3 recommendations there for approval. If I go through one at a time, the first one is to approve the national and local conditions set out in Appendix A. Members, are we happy with that? Yep.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. Second recommendation, that the fees for the permanent paving licence legislation within the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act of 23 are set at a maximum of 500 and 350 for renewals and for a maximum period of 2 years. Are we happy with that?
Seconded.
Seconded. Thank you. And then the last one is to approve the delegations associated which will allow the licensing authority to administer and enforce the schemes. And I think we're all happy with that as well.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Tony, 3 ticks and off you go. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
No, we're moving on to Councillor Malik. Can I please ask you to take your seat? The meeting hasn't finished. Okay. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 11, which is the draft committee work programme for 2024. We did have a meeting scheduled for the 26th of September, later on this month, and I'm not sure there's no agenda items. I've not been made aware of any agenda items. So we're cancelling 26th of September.
That is the day of the election.
So we're cancelling it.
So yeah.
There's no agenda items. We're cancelling it. Okay. And I think we've got the next meeting's on the 29th of October, but I'm sure by then we'll have some agenda items. And then you can see the items for the following meetings. Any comments, anything on that? Are we happy with that programme?
All happy, Chair.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. So we're all happy with that. And the last bit, Eunice, we haven't got anything under section, was it 10? Let me go back to it. Section 100 under the Local Government Act 1970. We haven't got any items on that. Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to bring this meeting to a close. Thank you, everybody.